This is the Fight for Your Health, the show that teaches you how to master the fine art of living your life on purpose and have a longer, healthier, and happier life through the martial arts lifestyle. The show is hosted by Professor Buitron and his co-host, Grand Master Richard Hackworth. These two experts have combined their efforts and are on a mission to make the world a safer, healthier, and happier place through the martial arts lifestyle. Now, to tell it like it is, here are your
The Fight for Your Health TV show with your host, Professor Buitron. I am your lovely and talented and extremely modest co-host, Richard Hackworth. And today we have a special guest, Sensei Bret Gordon, here on the Fight for Your Health TV show, going worldwide on YouTube and other social media outlets. Sensei Gordon, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
No, thank you for coming on, and it's always a pleasure. And here's a question. I know that you did Akijitsu, correct?
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about Akijitsu and its benefits towards kids that are being bullied right now in this time frame.
I gotcha. So my personal experience in the Aiki arts, started in the Aiki arts specifically when I was about 12, 13 years old. Started in Aikido. The art that I study now is called American Yoshinkan Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, which is an offshoot of Gaiden Kodokai and Yoshinkan Aikido. As far as being able to help kids being bullied, the principles of Aiki, the whole non-resistance, being able to absorb what's being thrown at us, whether it's verbally or physically, absorb it and redirect it rather than fighting back combatively with it. One of the big things I see as far as kids and being bullied in school is the school's tolerance or the school's policy on zero tolerance really prevents kids from fighting back. So the Aiki arts kind of give them another option to not to handle the situation without being aggressive with it.
I understand the rationale. It's beautiful art. When I was in college, I got involved with Sensei John Ayers and Aikido. Then from there we went to Aikijitsu and we did some other stuff. And there was always something in my background that it said, how I wish more people were involved with the Aiki, even though Sabat was always the main burner of my life,
Right.
And Aiki helped me a lot with the direction of being able to calm people down quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Give me that pacifist mentality of it, I don't know if it was the art itself or with the instructors that I was surrounded with. But
Right.
It's something that I'm glad to see that you're doing it. And I'm glad to see that it's being taught out there more and more now than it was 30 years ago.
Oh, definitely.
And how would you say the calmness wise? Because does Aikijitsu have enough of the meditation as Aikido and some of the other derivatives?
Yes, it does. The whole realm of traditional Japanese arts. They're steeped in that Japanese culture. So spirituality, meditation, things like that. They're crucial elements. Of the art itself. Strictly speaking, for the art that I study, we are derived from Japanese warrior arts, and being able to remain calm under pressure, remain calm in battle, that was an absolutely fundamental skill that needs to be mastered, and that translates very, very well to modern self-defense, self-protection, combatives, things like that.
Right, absolutely. How do you see the martial arts in general growing now? Or do you see them moving in a different direction as it was when you started?
Yeah, for sure. In the last couple of years, it seems that there's this resurgence of interest in traditional arts and classical arts. For a long time, the focus was starting to shift to sport martial arts, to MMA, and it's nice to see kind of the traditional and the classical arts coming back to prominence.
Absolutely. And here's a question I'm going to ask for all of us, kind of in general. With all this cancel culture, I think that it's affected the martial arts in general. Richard?
Well, for me personally, I think that people being accused of misappropriating other cultures or taking advantage of them really doesn't do justice to the fact that our practice is an appreciation of other cultures. We're
Absolutely.
not stealing anything. We openly acknowledge the origins of our arts, the countries of origin, the teachers that we have in our lineage that go back to those roots. So I think that through our own efforts, we've made it pretty clear that we're not trying to misappropriate anyone's culture, but just to help spread the benefits of it. And I think that that is a good segue into the fact that one of the things that drew me to getting to know Sensei Gordon was that we have some very similar interests, even if we approached it from different angles. And like, he's also a Reiki practitioner. And so it's very rare to find a lot of people, especially now, that have that balance in their training between the healing arts and the self-defense arts or the warrior arts. And if he doesn't mind digging into that a little bit, I'm sure our listeners would love to hear about the connection between Reiki and other samurai healing arts and the practice of martial arts today.
Absolutely. That is a good question. How would you say Reiki combines, or it's beneficial, or how can somebody improve with it, or learn bits of it to improve themselves within the arts?
Absolutely. So first thing, a quick disclaimer. What most people consider to be Reiki really isn't. Reiki is not something you can learn in a weekend course. But you see a lot of people out here claiming to be Reiki practitioners and Reiki masters, and that's exactly what they've done. They've trained for a couple hours on the weekend, and it's some trailer park, and now they're out here with these certifications, and they claim to be healers and spiritual guides and all these other things, and that's not what Reiki is. That's not what Reiki was even set up to do. So going back to the traditional roots and the classical foundation of it. So Kapo as a whole, the healing arts, the resuscitation arts, have always been tied into the study of martial arts. I mean, it's not a coincidence that the most prominent doctors and bone setters and healers were martial arts experts. The two really do go hand in hand. And when we're talking about Reiki specifically, the founder of Reiki actually studied Aikido Jiu-Jitsu under the founder of Aikido before it became Aikido. And so for those guys who are listening and don't really know, Reiki is healing through the laying on of hands. And that's a universal concept of healing that we see across a multitude of cultures. It existed in the Middle East. It existed among Native Americans. Just the idea of healing through touch. And the way it was explained to me was that Reiki is something that is instinctually built into us. Just as an example, you're out, you bump your elbow. The very first thing you do is you grab your elbow. And instinctively know that touch helps. Well, how does it help? So touch promotes warmth. Warmth promotes blood flow. Blood flow promotes the flow of fresh oxygen and nutrients to the area. It flushes out the stagnation and the inflammation, and it speeds up the healing process of the body. And obviously that's a very basic, fundamental level of Reiki. That's kind of where it all starts.
No, you're correct. You see a lot of arts, especially the Oriental arts, the East, the Eastern arts, you have a lot of medicine alongside with it. You have a lot of healing alongside with it. Somewhere in the West, and I'm talking about this from the Savad side of it, the Occidental arts, you kind of lose that somewhere in the 1800s. Everything kind of just splits up into different fractions. Of course, you have formal medicine, and you know what I'm saying, and
Yes.
former butchery became one thing, medicine became the other, and you know what I'm saying, barbers,
No,
one
definitely.
time dentists, and all that stuff. So it kind of everything started breaking up into our own specialties and building upon that,
Right.
and it was no longer taught by the sage martial artists that you know what I mean, that lived out there.
No, for sure. And that's really sad to see. So my personal instructor, his name is Stephen Hatfield, who's based out of Columbus, Ohio. His big thing is, as a martial artist, we should not cause an injury that we can't fix.
Sure.
Whether it's in the dojo, and obviously, we're not trying to hurt our training partners, but accidents do happen. So as an instructor or a high-level practitioner, you need to be able to address those injuries right away. But even, out in, quote unquote, the real world, we're not doing martial arts to be malicious. The whole idea of self-defense is we're defending ourselves. And if we're able to disable our attacker, there's no reason to leave them disabled.
Right.
If we dislocate their elbow, put it back for them.
No, I understand. I'm going to compare this to boxing just a bit.
Okay.
In boxing, you have a coach, a second, and for the last 30 years, you have a cut man. But the coach used to be able to do everything else. Now everybody's called a second, right? Your corner. So your corner had to wrap your hands. Your corner had to fix your cuts when you were and you had to be able to fix that boxer up very, very quickly.
Right.
Those arts are not being passed on to the amateur status coaches. Understand what I'm saying? So you don't see those portions of the cornerman, of the coach, of the second on the corner of boxing not being passed on. So you start seeing these guys with big old blood clots underneath their eyes. Well, before they would just iron them out. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
And it's no longer rub them out. It's no longer. It's traditions that are not being passed on as they were before. Something that you had to understand is no longer not here now. You don't need it. And I think that's that type of erasing of traditional values within the arts has damaged them. But I'm so glad that you all are still practicing that, because it's something to commend.
I'm not sure if it has to do with the values of martial arts, or perhaps it's more just the overall inexperience of instructors. Whether we're talking about the healing arts, whether we're talking about applications, the subjects of martial arts that require any depth, we're into the second, third, fourth generation of instructors that's just never even reached that level of material. I mean, the pioneers of martial arts that we all venerate from the 60s, 60s and 70s, they trained in Japan, they trained in Korea for a year or two. And they came back, and obviously they had more information than anybody else at that point. But they never reached the depths of the arts that allows them to get to the applications, that allows them to get to the healing aspect of it. So they have a very superficial understanding of the art, and that's what's being passed on, and which leads us to the situation we have today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you've seen stuff like that too, Richard, when in your travels with the martial arts, that certain things that you see in Korea are not being passed down here. Why is it? What happened? And it's either the lack, like you said, it's either the lack of interest of that discipline, or the lack of producing instructors fast that do not have the knowledge to back them up. I guess that's the other question that you get.
Well, I think for me personally, Sensei Bret brought up some very important aspects of why there was a breakdown. But I think that the biggest contributor to this loss of information and the lack of quality in instructors was in the mid 70s through up into the 90s and beyond. There was this rush to commercialize martial arts training. And as you mass produce, the quality obviously goes down because you're more concerned with numbers than you are quality. And so we produce the last couple of generations, for the most part, are like the McDonald's meals of instructor certifications compared to like someone being a qualified chef. And we have to bring back that desire on the instructor's parts to learn more, because all of this information is still easily available. And my God, through the internet and books. And one of the things that all of my instructors had in common that kind of changed me, because as a kid, I wasn't a big reader, but I found that my personal instructors said that they got a lot of their knowledge and continuing education through reading and through self-study and through practice with other instructors. And we've kind of lost that because now we've reached a time and age where I'd say 99% of the instructors out there, particularly what I call commercial instructors, consider every other instructor their competition, where there's only about 1% of us that would like to work together as a community.
Right.
And I think that there's a huge difference between the martial arts industry and the martial arts community.
Absolutely.
And it's based on the standards and the desires of the people involved. I think for the most part, traditional instructors, the ones who do work with each other and do study on their own and do their own research, they have a sense of obligation to be the best instructor that they can be, because their primary goal is to be a high quality teacher and to impact the lives of their students in a positive way. Whereas a commercial instructor's sole focus and desire seems to be nickel and diming their way up the social status through cash that they beat out of, soccer moms and parents of their 4 and 5 year old students. So it's a very different approach. And unfortunately, all of those schools from the industry and the community call themselves martial arts schools. And there's a big difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, I cannot agree with you more. Cannot agree with you more. What are your next ventures in teaching wise, or goals in towards teaching or passing on, Sensei?
Well, so for right now, I'm working on a couple of different things. Obviously, first and foremost, we just moved to a brand new location about 12 weeks ago. So being able to grow the student base here, is obviously kind of first and foremost. Next year, though, I'm actually getting out on the seminar circuit a little more. Now that things, the pandemic is kind of coming to an end. Thank God, and things are going to get back to normal. I'm now getting back out there and doing more seminars. I've already got some lined up in right here in Florida, in Ohio, and actually next June I'll be teaching an Aikido Jiu-Jitsu seminar in Japan.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So,
that's awesome. And, what happened to a lot of great instructors is that a lot of instructors are basically in the seminar circuit, A lot of them, that's how they teach. They have a school where they kind of get together with people they kind of care about and just continue teaching it that way. But their main goal and the way they actually make a living is through the seminar circuit. And you have a lot of these instructors that, when the pandemic hit, they just they haven't moved.
right.
Period. A lot of them were in bad shape, and they're in bad shape financially because they did not see this. And hopefully we don't lose a lot of those greats, because there's a lot of greats out there that's how they made a living.
Oh, definitely.
And, we as martial artists, I think our martial art community, we all have to stick together. And that's something that we have not touched on. We kind of seem to be the leaders of the pack in our school, in our community.
Right.
And people look at those leaders as people just strong and with a smile moving forward. But they don't see the depression that a lot of these leaders are going through with the cause of the financially, with the pandemic and everything else that's been going on, and other problems that they're the ones that are harboring because of that. So
no, I agree 100%. Personally, I know several high quality instructors that teach purely for the love of the art and have really struggled through this pandemic because they don't have 400 students. They're not out here bastardizing the art and trying to sell it to whoever walks in the door. They're making sure that the students that they accept, they're good, good quality heart, and they're a right fit for the school. But like I said, through this pandemic, they've really suffered, and it's sad to see. And one of the things that Richard had talked about was other instructors aren't competition. I mean, if anything, like, you guys are my colleagues, and that's how it should be. Especially in times like this, instructors need to be getting together, doing seminars, and not necessarily paid seminars. One of the things I'm very proud of is every year we host a Thai here at the school. That's absolutely free, and it's open to anyone, regardless of rank, regardless of style. This past, we held it in August. We had half a dozen instructors fly in from as far as Oregon and Ohio to Florida just to teach at this event for brotherhood and for community. And that's something that's really lost among instructors today, is that sense of community.
Absolutely, and it has to be brought back. And I think Grand Master Richard is a great proponent for that, putting people together. And I think we have to continue moving forward. Once more, the show's coming to an end. Anything you'd like to tell folks out there? Your new space, where's it at?
So we're located in Ocoee, Florida. We're about 10 minutes from Orlando, about 15, 20 minutes from Disney, where we're located, obviously, the heart of Central Florida. Our doors are always open. We offer classes for Taekwondo, for Aikido, for Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, for Judo. So we kind of have a home for anybody who wants to come and work out with us. We're very welcoming here.
I know, in closing, I do have one more question that I'd like to get in for our listeners, and that is for those people who are interested in learning more about the healing arts that maybe don't go to a school where it's being taught, what are like 3 things that you suggest they can do on their own to start gathering that knowledge? Is there like a foundational book that you would recommend to starting with, or an online course, or what?
Absolutely.
What 3 key things would help the most?
Absolutely. So first thing, if you're interested in Reiki specifically, so the founder of Reiki put out his own manual, and in recent years, it's actually been translated to English. So I have actually a copy right here, the original Reiki handbook. It's available on Amazon for like 10 or 15 bucks. So anyone's interested in the healing arts, there's no reason, that you shouldn't have this in your collection. So that's first and foremost. Second thing is really do your research and talk to people who do offer classes in Reiki. See what their background is. Do they, just like martial arts, do they come from a real and verifiable lineage, or do they go like some weekend course? And then lastly, Reiki is not the only form of healing in the martial arts. There's Qigong, or Kiko in Japanese. There's massage, there's acupressure, and there's courses and there's schools and certification courses for these readily available. So if you don't have access to Reiki specifically, like that's okay. You know, just getting involved in the healing arts, period. Like I said, whether it's massage, acupressure, you know, qigong, whatever it is, you know, find a qualified instructor, find a course in your area, and you know, just dive in.
Absolutely. That's great. That's great. That's great information. Once more, I want to thank you. Once more, my brother, I want to thank you for putting this together. And we will be going forward. We have a great lineup coming in the near future, so don't miss out. And not saying that Sensei is not good. He was one of the best because he taught us something new today, and that is for us.
Thank you for having me on.
Well, before we jump off and before you close out the show, Professor, I just want to say that I'd like to thank Sensei Gordon for being on the show and sharing with our listeners, and I'd like to thank and let our viewers know that we really appreciate them as well. And be sure to tell your friends, and your family, and your people you train with about the show. And if you have a suggestion for a show guest, feel free to reach out to us and let us know if you're in contact with someone that would make a great guest on the show. But Sensei Gordon, thanks again for coming on. Professor, thanks again for allowing me to be a part of this. And that's it for me.
We'll move on forward. I want to leave everybody with you all stay safe, everybody be well, and enjoy the weekend. Hug your kids, hug your parents. And until next time, much peace.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Hosts